As a way of centering us for our time together, I want to read for you the first 8 verses of Psalm 63. It is a psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. O God, you are my God. I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I've looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. I will lift up my hands and call on your name. My soul is satisfied as with a rich feast, and my mouth praises you with joyful lips. When I think of you on my bed and meditate on you in the watches of the night, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings I sing for joy. My soul clings to you, your right hand upholds me. I want to welcome you to Hobson UMC on YouTube. I am VHD Jr. I am the lead pastor here, and I am in for my weekly conversation with my son Trey as we talk about the upcoming lectionary passage for this Sunday, which is the third Sunday in Lent and year C, and so we look forward, and it is an exciting time. Not only is it Lent, but it's also March Madness, and so we'll probably end up talking a little bit about that. And I'm sure you're wondering, what in the world does March Madness have to do with the lectionary and preaching on this Sunday? But as one who grew up loving basketball can relate to everything that we're dealing with. So we're delighted that you are spending some time with us. And hope that you too are having fun. As I say, this will be the weekend of the first weekend in March Madness. And I can remember the time of when this weekend was not about preaching. It was not about anything else other than watching hopefully many, many hours of basketball. But we are thankful that you are spending some time. Maybe those of you who are not necessarily basketball fans are tuning in to see what it is that we are talking about this weekend. And I do want you to know that we do appreciate when you let us know that you have listened to our recording for the week. And particularly when you said that there was something that we said that brought you some comfort at a time when you needed that, or something that challenged you to look at the Word in a different way than you normally have. But most importantly for us, it's just it's an opportunity for us to spend some time in community, even though we may be virtually and away from one another. I also want to use this opportunity just to thank those of you who continue to support the ministry here at Hobson, particularly those of whom with your financial gifts to help us to continue to open the doors and be here on a weekly basis, and we truly appreciate that. And as I say, we also just appreciate you just letting us know that this is important to you. Because it is important to us, but it's only important to us if it's important and it is relevant for you. So thank you once again for tuning in to Hobson UMC on YouTube with V.H. Sonny Dixon and his son Trey. An important time for us whenever we gather at Hobson, whether it is doing worship or during our time of fellowship, and for even on a time of just sharing on a recording, is to share with one another those things that are on our hearts, of which we lift up and share with God, both those joys and those concerns that we have. We believe in Hobson and in prayer, and we believe in intercessory prayer, and praying for one another and praying for those things. Because not only in praying for that, we also are saying to God that we want to be instruments of your grace and how we may be able to answer the prayers that we have lifted up to one another. An important part of our celebration are the celebrating of birthdays, to be able to go around the sun yet one more time. And it is important for us in the community of being able to share with one another, particularly those persons who are close to us. They may not be members of the congregation, but for members in the congregation, these persons are important. As we go into this week, which is the week of March the 20th through the 26th, I want to lift up the following individuals who have birthdays: Shirley Worthy, Vicki Johnson Harris, the newly, well, I guess she's not so new now, but the newly Mrs. Henry Harris, Paul Seymour Miller, Trey's cousin, Jackie Fried Chicken Bryant. That woman can eat some fried chicken. Faith Smith, Elizabeth Howell, Representative Jason Powers, Emily Reeves Grammer, Marlo Tip, Jean Kelly, Bo Roberts, my cousin and Gwen's sister, Beverly Hill Shelley, Drusilla Martin, Lionel Matthews, Sharon Shaw McEwen, Monet London Fletcher, Robert Earl Bright Jr., Chuck Winfred, Marion Southall White, Caprice Hilton Givens, Janice Johnson, our own Nico Du Bois, Tequila Johnson, Lawrence Hall, Sabrina Day, and Kimberly Goods. Want to send out birthday greetings to them this week, and if you know those individuals, give them a shout out and let them know that you're thinking about them and praying for them as we give thanks for yet another year for them. I want to ask that you be in prayer for, and particularly to be in prayer for those who are being affected by the war in Ukraine, those of whom the lives have been taken, the millions of people who have had to flee their homeland and now are refugees in other places. We want to just make sure that we lift them up and be in prayer. Ask for prayers for Janet Du Bois, who is dealing with some health issues, and so we're just asking that you be in prayer for her. She'll be at home, but she'll have to deal with some issues of care, and so we want to ask for prayers for her. Continue to pray for others of whom we've listed, put on our list. Ask for prayers for comfort for Bruce Hawkins, who lost a dear friend. Asked us last week to be able to be in prayer for her, and she transitioned this week, so we ask for prayers for Bruce. Has been spring break in our community, and so we've been praying for traveling mercies and for those members of our community in the midst of their traveling who have gone to check on family members because they've been away for a while. And for some, there were a time of celebration, and for some, of deep concern. And we just ask for prayers for guidance for all of us of how it is that we are supportive and caring for our families and friends in this time. If you have prayers that you want us to pray for, have me pray for, send them to me. You can send them to me on Facebook or text message or email, however it is. You can call me and just let me know because, as I say, prayer is an important thing for us, and we want to be in prayer for you, particular if there are some things that you're going through, because we believe in a God who answers prayers. Amen. Our reading for this week, which is the third Sunday in Lent, year C, comes from Luke's Gospel, the 13th chapter, and I will be reading verses 1 through 9, and I'll be using the New Revised Standard Version translation. At that very time, there were some present who told him about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. Jesus asked them, "Do you think that because these Galileans suffered in this way, they were worse sinners than all other Galileans? No, I tell you, but unless you repent, you will all perish as they did. Or those 18 who were killed when the Tower of Siloam fell on them, do you think they were worse offenders than all of the others living in Jerusalem? No, I tell you, but unless you repent, you will all perish just as they did." Then Jesus told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. So he said to the gardener, "See here, for 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this tree, and still I find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting the soil?" He replied, "Sir, let it alone for 1 more year, until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good, but if not, you can cut it down." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Well, Trey, if you'd have asked me on Monday what was going to be, or Monday, what was going to be the direction that I was going with this passage, it would be totally different than where I am now. As it would happen, it was on I guess it was on Tuesday that I was on my way to sit with Mason, and I had just stopped at the donut place to get Mason his donuts of which he loves eating just the icing over it, and he only eats half of the donut, but he loves the icing part. And I had just gotten the donuts, and I was heading out Gallatin Road, and the telephone rang, and when it rang, it was Brittany, and Brittany says, first, when I saw her number, I was like, oh Lord, did I leave something, or why is she calling? And so then Brittany asked, well, are you on your way? Have you left yet? Well, yeah, I've already left because I'm due there in about 10 minutes, or I try to get there in about 10 minutes around a certain particular time. And I said, oh no, I just left the donut place. So I'm almost there. And so she said, oh, okay. Well, I don't feel well, and so you don't have to come. And I was like, well, okay, all right, well, I done bought the donuts, and I done bought Mason's donuts. I'm gonna still bring his donuts, and then I'll come on back. But it was that experience of when when I heard that, and it's always interesting when a conversation starts with a question, as it was in this particular passage, that it says that there were some persons that came to Jesus. Now, Jesus is in the midst of, and we know from the passage, he's been he's on his way to Jerusalem, and he has been teaching and healing people and kind of, tying up some loose ends as he moves toward Jerusalem. And so while he's talking to people, there are some people who come up. And the first thing they do, at least from the standpoint of the from how it is related in the scripture, is the first thing they do is they come and ask questions. And as I say, it's always interesting when a conversation starts with a question. I remember as a child, and maybe some of you will have had the same thing happen, because when they ask a question, Jesus asked a question. And I can remember when I was young, my mother in particular saying, "You don't answer a question with a question. You just give me an answer. Don't ask a question." And And those of you who have listened to this before and know that Mason and I listen to and watch Judge Judy a lot. And Judge Judy is the same way. Judge Judy, if Judge Judy asks you a question, you ask Judge Judy a question. Judge Judy said, I'm the one that asked the questions on here. I'm the one that's paid to get the questions. This is my show. I ask the questions, so don't be asking me questions. But it is something about when we hear questions that we respond by asking another question. I think the reason that we do that is because we want to be able to put some things into context. As I say, on Tuesday morning, when I get the call from Brittany, there were so many things that were running through my mind as to why she is calling me at 5:15 in the morning. That I began to ask questions because I want to make sure that I'm listening to the question right and I have some responses to the question. That for too many of us, it is before we answer questions, we want to make sure that we have the right answers for the questions, rather than whether it is the appropriate answer, which is just to give what it is on our what's in our spirit. And this particular passage, and I think and Luke puts it in there. And a lot of people have debated this passage as to whether or not this is something that really happened, because as you look in the history book, there are not any references to these events where it talks about Pilate, killing people and allowing the blood of those Galileans they killed to also mingle in with the lambs that would have been killed around the time of the Passover and the sacrifices that were done. But I think, Luke tells the story in such a way that, and particularly in Jesus' response, that gives us the impression that this is not a made-up story, that this is a real, event. Because when they ask about the experience, and then Jesus then goes on and says, well, what about the 18 people who were killed when the tower collapsed? You just don't make up the number 18. If you're going through, it's surely, and maybe for the early readers, that there were incidents that happened in that. And I know in the experiences that are going through that we're going through today, that there are a lot of details, there are a lot of things that are going on that for some it might be of a particular importance, and for others it might not. And just as simply because others did not record it does not necessarily mean that it did not happen. And for this community, for it to have been recorded by Pilate, this was acts that Pilate was doing all the time. So this was not any big significant thing that was happening in the course of that. And because it becomes so commonplace, it's almost like, in the day when we hear of tragic events and people of shooting with guns, and it has become so commonplace that it does not register us anymore. When we hear it on the news, we just flick the channel and we go to someplace else. But for this moment, that when they come and they encounter, they're asking this question. And Jesus, in asking the question back to them, is trying to really figure out, why are you asking me this question? And he's going through, are you asking me this question because you're outraged because of what Pilate is doing? Or are you doing like we so often do, that when something tragic happens to people, was it justified? Was it something that they did that deserved that? Because surely, if it was not, then it would not have happened to them. That if they had been innocent, and then even though they may not have been guilty of what it was that Pilate was killing them for, the loss of life was justified, that God would not have allowed this to happen if somehow they had been good. And I think we ask those questions and we go through those things that when we're looking at tragic events that happen to the lives of others, that we try to find some way of being able to justify it. And Jesus, in his response, in essence, is saying, that they are, you might want to say it, they deserved it because of who they were. But there are sometimes that there are good things. There are bad things that happen to good people that you just can't. And so his asking of the question in the pondering is to ask them to some degree, to ask them to evaluate, why are you asking this question? What is it that you want to know after this experience? And I particularly feel, I think that way because of what then happens in the parable that he then tells, because he tells about an owner of a property that goes out, and he is inspecting the fig trees, and he finds this one fig tree. I think it's interesting enough to know that he knows exactly when this fig tree was planted. Maybe it was in a sequence of putting out the trees. But he finds a particular tree, and when he sees this tree has no figs on it at all. And he goes to the gardener and he tells the gardener, "Look, I want you to cut it down." Because it's been up for 3 years and it has not produced anything, and so just need to cut it down and we'll move on. The gardener in the story then says to the owner, "Wait, let me have another shot. Let me have an opportunity to kind of work around it, to kind of do and to see if I can help it to the point." And then, next year, if it produces figs, then, excuse me, all is well. But then if it doesn't, then you can cut it down. But at least give me an opportunity to try and see if somehow I can salvage the tree. I think, Trey, that's probably in the direction I'm going to probably go. I'm probably focus in on this story. Because I think in many aspects, when we're asking the questions and when we look at this story, we've got to ask the story, where are we in this? Who are we, and from whose perspective are we looking at this story? Are we looking at it from the owner of the property? Are we looking at it from the gardener? And more importantly, because of who we are in our congregation, are we that fig tree? And I know that there will be some people who are asking, "Oh, well, fig tree doesn't have any decision. Fig tree's just there, But there are a lot of people who are in our community that probably can resonate with the fig tree, that they find themselves being in situations and circumstances where they are unproductive. And it has become so easy just to simply blame it on the tree, that the tree didn't do what the tree had done. But in this story, there is one that kind of comes of the gardener says, "Look, maybe we haven't done everything that we could to enable this tree to be productive. Give me an opportunity for that." And so there is, I think, for us as a community to be able to look and to ask that question. I mean, are we the gardeners? Are we in situations of where there are those who are around us that may appear to be unproductive, but there are things that we can do. And we have to ask our questions of our own self. That when we have given those responsibilities, have we done the things that we should to be supportive of people and to be caring so they can move? And then on the other end, that for some of us, we may be like that landowner that just simply on first glance looking at and we're not evaluating the situations and not going in, to just simply look at people and look at situations of where it's just not producing what I want, what I think it should. And so it becomes easy just to cut it down, to dismiss it, to move it aside. And I particularly think that in light of what is going on in so many places in our world, in particular what's going on in Ukraine, that when you look at both of these stories, I mean, when you look at the questions that are coming, and you've got people, who are asking, what did the Ukrainian people who are losing their lives, who are having to relocate, what did they do? I mean, did they do anything to be able to bring that on themselves? I mean, were they unproductive, or there's justification for just saying, look, we just need to get rid of them? And so I think that there are a lot of things, and particularly in this season of Lent, and the evaluation and the asking of questions, that before we answer, I think this passage invites us to do some deeper reflection and to truly see where we are in this passage, and to ask ourselves those extended questions before we just blurt out and answer. Because there are some who may blurt out, "Oh well, I am the owner." When in reality we may be the tree. And there are those of whom say, well, we may have asked the questions because we wanted to know about the people and the concerns about those of whom were the victims. But in reality, do we want to justify them being victims instead of being us, and failing to recognize the grace that may be in our lives? So I think this is a crucial passage for us, not only in this time of Lent, but in just the time that we're going through and we're experiencing in the world. So we're going to be looking at, and I guess I owe a degree of thanks to Brittany for challenging me on Tuesday to ask the questions. Well, Trey, how things going with you?
Things are going pretty good.
How's your week been?
So far so good. I am made an appointment to get my car fixed this weekend.
Oh, okay.
So
All
hopefully that goes well and cheap.
right. I don't think that's going to be, because first of all, it's going to require a part.
Oh yeah,
And,
for sure.
And so I went just to get a ink cartridge on yesterday, and when I went in, they didn't have any. And of course, I asked the guy. I says, "I'm looking for a 952 HP 952 blue," and then he was like, "Oh, well, let me go look in the back." Now I done already been in the aisle and then looked in the back and wasn't. I'm just going, So he goes back and he says, "No, we don't have any." He says, "We've been waiting for a truck for 2 weeks. We're expecting a truck in this week. Maybe you can check back." No, I need to print something tonight. But anyway, so hopefully you won't go in and they'll look and say, "Oh, we're expecting a truck."
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a known problem. And I filled out the little questionnaire, so
okay.
Hopefully, they have it on the lot, and I won't have to wait so long. But other than that, I'm just kind of excited for this first couple of days of basketball, which is always a great time.
Always an important time.
Well, I mean, it's great to just sit and watch basketball for a couple of hours, right?
It was always, for me, was a national holiday. And if you can remember, I guess you were in, I want to maybe the 4th grade, I think. I think it was in 4th grade, because I want to think you were at Bordeaux. Remember we went down to Orlando to go to the first round?
Oh, yeah, I do
we were in
remember
that camp.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And while it was nice to go and be present in a place, it still wasn't right, because you want to be in front of a television where you can go through and see all of it.
Right. Flip the channels and see who's beating who and all of that.
And just go through the day.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk, just a little bit about, the brackets and going through, because I think that there is there's a part of it. But before we talk about the bracket, I gotta just get this off of my chest. It's kind of about the whole thing around questions, and that's kind of where the bracket kind of thing go. But I just had to tell something that happened to me today. I go to the Kroger. That's around the corner, a couple of corners, I guess, from you, and I go in to get my chicken salad, my Tennessee chicken salad. You know, that I like to kind of eat with crackers and try to convince Mason he wants some too, and But anyway, so I go in, and I go to the counter, and I'm standing there, and the lady kind of says, "Well, I'll be with you in a minute. I'll be with you in a minute." So I'm just kind of standing there, waiting for her because I want this chicken salad. And so finally she comes. Now, before she comes, I see her. She goes in the back. She goes in the cooler. Now, I don't see what happens in the cooler. She comes out. She drops something on the floor, and I see her pick something up off of the floor, and then comes over and asks me what I want. And I say, I want 2 1-pound things of chicken salad, one to leave and one to bring. And so she doesn't say anything. She just gets the container and starts getting the chicken salad, and she puts the chicken salad in the containers. And while the chicken salad is on the container, I guess it's too much chicken salad in there, or more than a pound. So she takes her hand and takes out of the bowl the chicken salad. I said, wait a minute. You put your hands on my food. Then I said, oh no, oh hell no, I don't want that. So then she takes it and then puts it back in the cooler. So I immediately go over to the desk. I go over to the customer service, and I said, look, I know you're not gonna do anything about this, but I have got to get this off of my chest. And so I relate the story to her. And so, and I start out the story and say, I know you're not going to do anything, but you just need to know what she did. So then the lady says to me, did she have the gloves on? I said, yes, she had the gloves on when she picked up the stuff off the floor, when she had the door and she picked it up on the thing. I said, the lady who is getting the trash got on gloves also. Does that mean simply because you got gloves, it means you ain't going to get the germs, but I'm going to get the germs on that? She was like, well, I'll be sure to leave a note. I said, no, you ain't got. I said, you don't have to ever worry about one product of me coming in here and getting. Is anything that has ever been exposed to anybody in here, if it doesn't come prepackaged, I'm not getting anything in here. And so rather than just simply, kind of saying, sir, you're right, that was wrong. As I've heard, that was just nasty for her to be able to do. So I'm just kind of, outraged because I had my lips set on some chicken salad, and now I can't ever go over there and get any chicken salad anymore. So I guess I'm gonna make my own chicken salad.
Well, I have a story that I was kind of a bystander, kind of similar to that. So there was a corner store, it's still there, around the street, around the corner from my house. Went in there, and I'm in line, and I was getting some scratch-offs, and I had a couple of beers in my hand, so I'm just standing there behind this guy. And this particular location is known for, the little chicken, the little hot plate or whatever. Yeah. And so the guy that was at the register was like, I want a couple of pieces of chicken. Can you wash your hands before you get my chicken? Because he's taking money and he's doing all that. Just, can you wash your hands? And so the dude kind of was like, yeah. And so he said, yeah, I want a couple wings, blah, blah, blah. Can you please wash your hands? So he said it again. Yeah. So he was like, bruh, he ain't not gonna wash his hands. So he went over there, and sure enough, he had some tongs, but he got the tongs, didn't wash his hand, put the chicken in the box, and put the box on the counter, charged the man for it. The guy that was in front of me, he was like, excuse me, bro. He took the chicken, box of chicken, turned it upside down, and dumped the chicken in the middle of the floor of this gas station and started kicking it up against the door, up against the counter. He was like, "Nah, I told you to wash your hands." And he just walked out of the store. So I feel the same way. Like if I saw something like that, I would probably react in the same way. That is kind of trifling right there.
And here's the sad part about the story you told, because I think I know the story, the story you referring to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance they wouldn't pick that chicken up, and somebody 30 minutes later got that chicken. You know,
sure, yeah.
Like, you know, our profit, you know, and then we're going to talk about the profit, but I want to say this one thing. You talking about that store. Up on the other corner, they had another store.
Yeah.
And at that store, a guy came in, and I had some beer that I had bought for when we were going on our bus trips.
Mm-hmm.
And the beer had been in there, and the guy was like, "Oh, you know, Sonny, man, you know, can I do this? I ain't got no money." And then he saw the beer. He said, "Well, can I have one of those beers?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can have the whole 6-pack." So he got the 6-pack of beer, and then he was like, "Man, this beer hot." So he takes the beer up to the store, and trays in and said, "Man, I just got this beer 15 minutes ago, and it's hot." So the guy said, "Oh, okay. I don't know why it should have been hot, but go ahead and get some cold." So he changed it out and got some cold beer. About an hour later, the guy comes back there and he said, "Man, can you give me some money?" I said, "Give me some money." What? He said, "They gonna shoot me over that beer." Man, that beer was 2 years old. And I guess he had it, but he went through and left on the number on it. So it was So anyway, but I want to say and this is back to. You know, to the brackets and stuff, and also back to the thing of asking the kind of question, and part of our conversation of earlier. You know, we have some disagreements earlier about some of the seating. And you felt that there were some experiences and some things that happened for teams that should have put them seated at one place, and there's some other things that I thought should put them in the seat.
Sure.
And so there are those kinds of things. So I am sure that both of us are getting ready to, you know, kind of fill out, you know, with brackets and not to belabor folks, because by the time they hear this. That we'll be halfway through the bracket, but what are the things that you consider and what you use as your criteria for picking certain teams?
Well, I mean, it just goes by my feeling.
Okay.
Right? You know, I'm a gut.
But what
gut
inspires
picker.
your feeling? I mean, you just have to have.
Well, I mean, it depends on.
What questions do you ask yourself? Do they, you know, about your feelings with regards?
Well, some of the, I mean, in the first round, I just try to go with who I think is going to be the favorite. Okay. I mean, I don't really.
So you don't pick underdogs?
On some of them.
Well, they can't.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. On some of them, the underdog, it really isn't an underdog, right? You have to look at the seeding and how it will play out. And I guess one of the key things that I look at
if they got a U on the front of their cape, they are underdog.
Yeah, well, no. Yeah. If what is their away record, right? How have they performed away from home? Because most of the people or most of the teams that are playing are going to be in an away situation. Yeah, you might be considered the home team, but you're not going to be playing at home. So how did they fare in that way? And
yeah, I don't think they lie. Well, most of them are playing big coliseums now. Yeah.
And what have they done in the last 5 games?
Okay.
You know, what is their last 5 games? Like, what is their record?
What have you done for me lately?
Right. Because it goes a lot when you have made it to the, you know, Sweet 16 and you have won 10 out of your last 11 games.
Yeah.
So you on a roll. But if you are coming into the tournament and you're like, you lost 2 games and you just barely made it in there, it's like, I'm subject to pick against you.
Okay.
And it just depends on, who's your opponent. So I try to, take my emotions out of it. But when you were talking about the preferences and all of that, it's like, what is the importance of winning the championship of your conference, right? And we were talking about Tennessee.
Right.
And if Tennessee is a number 3 and Auburn is a number 2 and Tennessee won the SEC championship, how are they seated lower than Auburn? To me, that's just a travesty. What is the premium for winning the SEC championship?
And see, I don't think. I think they may look at how a team did in it, but I don't think that they necessarily hold it against a team who may have gone in and have been highly ranked, and then may not have taken it seriously.
How many champions are there of a conference? How many champions?
Well, there are 2.
No, it's just 1.
No, there are.
How many people get a trophy?
No.
The championship trophy.
Wait a minute. There is a regular season champ and a tournament champ.
That's crazy. Who gets the hardware? I don't think they give a regular season champion trophy. That doesn't exist.
No, they don't get a trophy, but they do get a banner.
Okay, well maybe so.
They get
maybe
a banner
so.
that they get.
And I think if you get the trophy, you should get the premium. It should be like whatever the top is. 4 regions, four conferences. You should get a number 1 seed if you win your championship.
Yeah, but because there are those flukes that take place. I mean.
So you saying Tennessee winning is a fluke?
No. What I'm saying is, you said that because you look at Tennessee, and you look at Tennessee compared to where Auburn and Kentucky were during the course of the year.
Right.
And so they did well in the tournament. And so they should have been seated above
Kentucky and Auburn.
Kentucky and Auburn.
Yeah.
But what if, by chance, that game had been a close game and Texas A&M hit a 50-foot shot from half court to beat them? There's no way that you could say that
they would have had an automatic bid though.
They would have had an automatic bid. They would have been in the tournament, but they would not necessarily meant that because they came out of the SEC, they ought to be a number 1 seed.
Well, I think the parity that you would allow. Let's say
that
Texas. Let's say Texas A&M did win, and they are now number 1. Tennessee's number 2, Kentucky's number 3, Auburn is number 4 in the SEC. That's how they would be ranked. Then they would. Texas A&M would play the lowest number 16. And I think that would be a better game than a number 1 seed such as Gonzaga playing a 16. Call me crazy, but it would be great television.
But great television, I remember going, every time I have gone to a NCAA first round and Kentucky has been there, the stadium has been sold out because the Kentucky fans come and purchase tickets. I don't care where they were. If you'd have taken Kentucky to the West Coast, those Kentucky fans are going to go. If Texas A&M had been a number 1 and gone somewhere, it'd have been 15 folk there, and 14 of them would have gotten free tickets. I mean, it all is about. The seeding is about, and we did talk about this too, it's about creating the pairings of where the television is going to look for the games. Nobody's going to look at Texas A&M other than the Texas A&M folks. We were looking at a game earlier, Mississippi State and somebody. Wasn't nobody looking at Mississippi State in that game but Mississippi State and whoever the heck Mississippi State, for Mississippi State fans. So ultimately, it's about the dollars, and it's about creating the matchups that, at the end, it's going to be 1 team. But hopefully, you'll have 60 60-something games that would have been great, fantastic games on the way to getting that championship. So,
Right.
So the choices and the decisions and the questions they all made, you may have said, what's fair, what's just, maybe they won, they should have been there. But the questions they're asking are, who are going to be the best matchup? Who are going to be the ones that are going to ultimately generate the kind of resources, both in playing in the tournament and on the television, that are going to attract the fans so we can make money? Because the bottom line is about making money. All right. I want to thank you for tuning in for this week. I know you tuned in to get some message, and you got a lot of basketball, and I hope that your teams are doing well. I tried to get him to let me know, try to get Trey to let me know who he's picking to to win it all, but didn't get that from him. But hope you're having a good weekend, and I do encourage you to continue to be in prayer. We had a good time tonight. We enjoyed the conversation, but we are mindful of the fact that a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are going through some things. So we just encourage you to be in prayer and to be aware of the people who are around you. And for those of whom find some time to enjoy this weekend the games, I will hope that your team wins. And more importantly, if your team wins, I hope it is the same team that I picked.